Kia's EV6 has long been difficult to ignore in the affordable part of the mid-sized EV segment, but competition has stiffened in recent times, hence the need for this smarter, classier feeling, longer-ranging, facelifted model. Can it keep this bold Korean maker on the podium in this challenging segment? We're going to find out.
The EV6 has brought Kia to another level as an EV maker. Here we're going to look at the updated version. Prior to the 2021 arrival of this EV6, Korean maker Kia's offerings have been worthy, sensible, good value and, whisper it, rather dull. But that changed with this car's introduction. The idea here was to reinterpret full electric technology for the affordable part of the mid-sized market in a sporty, desirable fashion and create a really appealing Korean alternative to established style-conscious segment choices like the Polestar 2 or Tesla Model 3. That was quite a challenging brief for a manufacturer just evolving from budget brand status, but Kia went about it with enthusiasm. A great advantage lay with its access to the Hyundai Motor Group's advanced 800-volt E-GMP platform, which the EV6 would share with its similarly engineered close cousins, the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and the Genesis GV60. And the design team built on this sure foundation with distinctive looks and, surprisingly, accomplished handling. By 2024, though, other rivals were fronting up with smarter looking cabins and better EV mileages, hence the need for an EV6 facelift package that addressed both these things with a smart exterior refresh. That's what we're going to try here. Has it all been enough to keep this Kia in top class condition? Well, as usual, you'll need the industry's most comprehensive review, the car and driving road test, to find out. Very little's changed about the way this improved EV6 drives, though not too much needed to. Perhaps the biggest difference with this facelifted car is one Kia doesn't want to talk about, a largely unexplained 80-kilogram weight increase. No part of which is down to the biggest engineering change here, a new, slightly larger capacity 84 kilowatt-hour battery, which is fractionally lighter than the old 77.4 kilowatt-hour unit, but more importantly, boosts driving range by a very useful amount, from 328 to 361 miles in the base 225 bhp rear-driven version. This makes 62 mile an hour in 7.7 seconds, nearly half a second slower than before, thanks to that extra weight. As before, there's also the option of having your EV6 with an electric motor on both axles, rather than just one at the rear, creating the all-wheel drive model we're trying here. With this, the extra little 74 kilowatt motor at the front boosts total output to 320 brake horsepower, which provides for 62 miles an hour in 5.3 seconds and nearly twice the amount of pulling power, 605 newton meters, on the way to the 114 mile an hour top speed that all versions of this Kia share. Range with an all-wheel drive EV6 is up to 339 miles, up from 314 before. This isn't one of those EVs that hurls itself away from rest or catapults itself at the horizon, which for us is a good thing, the delivery of torque and speed here being pleasantly linear and combustion-like. If you want an EV6 that does kick you in the back away from rest, Kia will attempt to sell you a top GT model with a twin motor output, uprated 641 bhp and a thumping 740 newton meters of torque. But you don't really need that GT model's manic speed, rest to 62 mile an hour in just 3.5 seconds en route to 162 miles an hour. And you don't really need its standard adaptive damping system either, because the passive frequency selective mechanical springs that feature on standard EV6s, which can't be upgraded, combine with a multi-link independent rear suspension to produce an actually very well judged quality of ride over poor surfaces. There are various drive modes, Eco, Normal, Sport and the My Drive Auto setting, plus a Snow option above base trim. none of which improve the rather gloopy feel of the steering. But the 6 available brake regeneration settings, most operable by the steering wheel paddle shifters, are effective, including a fierce E-pedal setting, and careful use will get you somewhere near the quoted combined cycle drive range figures. Should you wish to throw economic caution to the wind and push along through your favourite back doubles, this Kia's remarkably agile given its prodigious weight, certainly more so than its similarly engineered Hyundai Ioniq 5 close cousin. Refinement's good too, though as usual with new cars these days, as you drive in and out of town limits, the cabin peace is frequently disturbed by the usual annoying symphony of bings and bongs. We understand why car makers need to fit these features, but we don't understand why they can't make them easier to switch off. There's no silly selectable EV soundtrack option like you get from some other models in this segment, but in this top spec form, the EV6 does offer an active sound design feature that more subtly gives audio feedback through the stereo speakers that rises and falls with the perambulations of electric motor output via 3 different so-called soundscapes. That's another piece of technology you might tire of quite quickly. As a whole though, this EV6 should fit into your life nicely, especially in this updated form. If you happen to be familiar with the original version of this EV6, then you'll probably notice the changes made to the distinctive opposites united styling of this updated model. The main changes lie here at the front, where Kia's Tiger face has been reinterpreted for the digital era. The smarter adaptive headlights are now surrounded by sleeker daytime running lights that feature the eye-catching star map signature lighting we first saw on the larger EV9, part of a nose made more aggressive by expanded front grills. From the side, not much has changed about the wedge-shaped look with its swept-back windscreen and bold rear haunches, except the design of the 19-inch, or as in this case, 20-inch wheels. As previously, they're pushed right to each corner, emphasising the curiously short nose and the long rear overhang. In between, there are flush-fitting door handles and a character line that runs along the bottom of the doors, curving upwards towards the rear wheel arches, visually elongating the profile of the car. Kia says it's now made the B-pillars thicker, strengthening the body for extra crash safety. And as before, there's a sloping C-pillar with an integrated black glossy insert, which gives the effect of widening the window glass. You'd have to be a real EV6 expert to notice the changes made to the rear. If you're not, we'll tell you that this lower contrasting gloss black panel is now split into 3 distinct segments, all with sharper edges. The original EV6 reintroduced for the modern era the stylistic concept of this cam-style tail, originally pioneered by old 60s sports cars like the Aston Martin DB6, and in the current day now copied by cars like the Alfa Romeo Junior. Above this sits a prominent wing-type roof spoiler that channels air downwards towards a raised lower spoiler, which sits atop the car's unique rear light cluster. As before, it all sits on the same all-electric E-GMP platform that underpins not only this car and its Hyundai Ioniq 5 and Genesis GV60 cousins. The improved 84 kilowatt-hour battery that sits upon it in this facelifted model is a kilo lighter than the old unit, so it's surprising to find the car as a whole 80 kilograms heavier than before, which means 2,165 kilograms in this all-wheel drive variant, down to chassis and suspension changes apparently. Time to take a look inside. These flush-fitting handles springing out to greet you as you approach in this top-spec model. Will these subtle changes outside be mirrored inside? Pretty much, yes. When we first tried an EV6, we quite liked the avant-garde design of this cabin, but it didn't feel particularly premium. To try and achieve a bit of that with this updated model, Kia's added a new ambient lighting system that accentuates the horizontal design of a dashboard, now featuring more elegant patterning. Some of the plastics on the centre console have been updated and the brand's replaced all the previous rather cheap-feeling, smudge-worthy, glossy piano black surfaces with a much nicer brushed, textured finish. The steering wheel's been restyled too, with this 3-spoke design if you avoid base trim, though its two-tone colouring might be something of an acquired taste. Unusually, Kia's decided to put the drive mode button on its lower spoke. Otherwise, things are as before, which means that your initial attention will probably be taken by this 2-part floating centre console and by the fact that it doesn't join onto the dashboard ahead, which adds a very spacious interior feel. This dashboard doesn't need the usual lower centre stack because it doesn't have to accommodate separate climate control buttons. Not because these have been hidden away on the upper touchscreen, though you can find some there, but because this clever, narrow, lower multi-mode display flicks from infotainment monitor shortcuts to ventilation functions at the press of a button. The arrangement's not ideal, but the functionality works well. The driving position is lower and more car-like than you'd expect from a crossover, and the steering column's at quite a sharp angle, so it all feels a bit different, but nothing you couldn't quickly adjust to. And you sit on very comfortable vegan leather trim seats, which above base trim are of Kia's relaxation sort, able to recline almost all the way back. They're clad in modern, visually interesting and robust fabrics created using recycled plastics, equivalent to 111 plastic water bottles. This 2-part floating centre console can't slide back and forth, as the universal island centre console between the seats does in an Ioniq 5. But as a piece of design, it works really well, bringing functions you'll frequently use, start button, heated seat selectors, even a wireless charging mat on which your mobile phone can sit, exactly where you'd ideally want them. As is the current trend, 2 giant 12.3-inch screens linked together for the infotainment and instrument displays. The curved driver display screen you view through the wheel retains its curious corrugated roofing sheet-style interface layout, which means it still can't show full screen mapping, and there remain rather too many tiny digits along its lower level for things like battery charge, chosen recuperation, and drive modes, temperature and energy consumption. But once you've adjusted to all of that, this setup works pretty well. And if you stretch to this top trim level, you get neat little circular rear camera screens that flash up on either side of the instrument cluster when you activate the indicators. With the same top trim, it works in conjunction with an augmented reality head-up display setup that projects all kinds of key journeying information onto the windscreen in front of you as you drive. Everything else is on this central curved touchscreen navigation screen, now improved with extended network navigation functionality, over-the-air updates and wireless activation for Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. As usual with Hyundai Motor Group models, this central display has 2 main home screen pages, one simple uncluttered one with a battery graphic, range, temperature, audio and navigation, or you can swipe across to a display full of little icons, all of which can be moved about to your preferences, much like your phone. You can also create a split screen format, say with EV and audio info, and there's a comprehensive EV section for your charging regime with a beautifully concise home screen that tells you at a glance pretty much everything you really need to know. What else? Well, your all-round view is fine at the front, but to the rear it's somewhat compromised by the huge rear pillars and rising window line, so it's good that a rear view camera and rear parking sensors are standard across the range, while mid-range GT line trim adds front sensors as well. This top GT Line S version includes an excellent 360-degree bird's-eye view surround camera and can even be parked remotely by key fob buttons while you stand outside, which looks very impressive and might be very helpful if you've to park in a very tight space that will make it difficult to open the doors. Let's finish up front here with a look at cabin storage. Now, earlier we mentioned this 2-part floating centre console which offers a huge deep lower tray big enough for bags or laptops and has a 12-volt socket and a USB-C port. A couple of further power ports, a USB-A point and a USB-C socket, sit just beyond its lower edge at the base of the main dash. The top part of the centre console has twin cup holders and a 15-watt wireless charging mat. Because stowing stuff in that lower section leaves your belongings in open view and in an area where they'll tend to slide around, you might prefer to put smaller items in this big 10.5 litre glove box, which has an inner tray. They're unlikely to fit in the tiny door bins, which, though flock-lined and beautifully lit, are really little more than bottle holders. Okay, let's take a look in the rear, which ought to be comfortable, given that the EV6 has a substantial 2.9 metres of length between its axles. Sure enough, once in the back, legroom is generous. There's 990 millimetres of it, in an area that would feel even more spacious if it was easier to slide your feet beneath the seat ahead. And because there's no central transmission tunnel, it'd be easy to take a third centrally positioned adult back here if you needed to, but then you wouldn't be able to use this centre armrest with its twin cup holders. Headroom is less impressive, an issue exacerbated by the fact that these rear seats are set a little higher than those at the front, and even more in this case because a sunroof's been fitted, taking further precious millimetres of ceiling room. This shouldn't be too much of an issue unless you're fairly tall, and the seat backs do recline to ease the problem for loftier folk. That higher floor means your knees are slightly higher than they'd normally be and your thighs a little less supported, so bear that in mind if you'll be using your EV6 for longer trips. These tiny rear quarter-light windows are rather strange, as are the little USB-C port tabs on the front seat back sides, and the fact that centre vents are missing, relocated to the B-pillars. You get bottle holders in the doors, individual overhead lights, and coat hooks in the grab handles. Right, let's finish with a look at luggage space. Pausing on the way to activate something that, on first acquaintance with this car, you might spend some minutes searching for: the charging flap. It's been cleverly hidden here in the right-hand rear panel and incorporates a useful charge level indicator, though the flap itself turns out to be a little flimsy. This little lower 250 volt 16 amp socket's interesting. The EV6's charging system has an integrated charging control unit, which, as with the Ioniq 5, makes it possible for this model to offer a clever V2L vehicle to load function, which works via the centre screen selectable utility mode and allows you, via an adapter with a 3-pin socket, to use the car as a mobile power source, powering up other things from its battery. Enough with that, let's finish with a look at the boot, which, rather disappointingly, is only electrically powered if you stretch to top spec trim. The tailgate rises to reveal what looks like a pretty cavernous space, but total capacity is ultimately limited by the high load platform. That huge battery pack has got to sit somewhere, of course. There's 490 litres of cargo space, or 480 litres in this GT Line S model, thanks to extra space taken up by the Meridian sound system subwoofer. There's an underfloor section too, though most of it's so shallow it'll only really be of much use for a charging cable or items that you'd recently run over. Kia hasn't bothered to favour you with bag hooks, and there's only one rather dim load area light, but you do get a 12 volt socket on the left, the usual 4 tie down points, and little recessed areas to the left and right so that you could easily insert the parcel shelf when not in use. Unlike the Ioniq 5, you get a ski hatch as well, so longer items like the aforementioned can be slid through between a couple of rear-seated folk. Push forward the rear seat backs, and though the area won't be quite flat, it does offer up to 1,300 litres of capacity. Not all EVs in this segment give you extra storage space for the charging leads beneath the bonnet. The Volkswagen, Audi, Skoda and Cupra EVs don't, for instance, but you do get that here. If you go for this top all-wheel drive model with its extra front-mounted motor, this frunk space will inevitably suffer to the point where you get just 20 litres of room. It's almost useless for anything other than, say, a slim laptop bag. With more common rear-driven variants, then frunk capacity rises to 52 litres, enough for a charging cable. As before, all EV6 models feature the same battery, now 84 kilowatt hours in size, and there's a choice of Air, GT Line, or as in this case, GT Line S trim levels. As we filmed in early 2025, prices were starting from around £45,500 for the base Air model, with £3,000 more necessary to graduate to GT line trim, and around £8,000 more needed for this top GT line S spec, costing from around £54,000 upwards as we filmed. Avoid base trim and your dealer will offer you the opportunity of spending £3,500 more to get the all-wheel drive drivetrain that we've been trying here. As before, the wild 641 bhp flagship EV6 GT, which Kia positions as a separate model and which we've covered in a separate film, continues at the very top of the range, but you'll need a £65,000 budget for one of those. Our focus here, though, is on mainstream EV6s. If you're seeking alternatives to this Kia, you will probably already know that there's a vast amount of comparably priced choice in this car's mid-sized crossover EV segment. If you're shopping in this class and making comparisons, the most obvious rival to look at is the Hyundai Ioniq 5 model, also recently updated, which shares most of this Kia's EV engineering. Unlike this EV6, that Ioniq 5 comes with a smaller battery option, as well as the 84 kilowatt-hour unit. It also has a cheaper 63 kilowatt-hour battery available that Kia chooses not to offer here. Compare like with like though, i.e. 84 kilowatt-hour EV6 against 84 kilowatt-hour Ioniq 5, and there's really not much in it price-wise between the two cars. Your other segment choices around this price point are, as we said, many, with Tesla's lately updated Model 3 and Model Y cars leading the way when it comes to sales. In the chasing pack, you'll find Polestars 2, Toyota's BZ4X, Renault's Scenic E-Tech Electric, Nissan's Ariya, Volvo's EX40, Volkswagen's ID4, Skoda's Enyaq, Ford's Capri and Explorer models, the Cupra Tavascan and Subaru's Solterra, possibly also the Vauxhall Grandland Electric and Peugeot's E3008 and E408. Plus, there are emerging brand contenders like the BYD Sea Lion 7, the Xpeng G6, the Leapmotor C10, the KGM Torres EVX, the Skywell BE11 and the JSU 7. If you want something slightly more premium, which means of course that it'll also be slightly more expensive, there's BMW's i4, Mercedes EQA and EQB, Audi's Q4 and Q6 e-tron models, the Genesis GV60 and the Lexus UX300E and RZ. Despite all of those many options, we could understand it if, given the avant-garde nature of this car, you concluded that there's simply nothing quite like an EV6. If that's the case, then you're going to need to know just how generous Kia's been with standard specs. So let's take a look at that now. Even base Air spec comes with quite a lot. You get 19-inch alloy wheels, full LED headlights, keyless smart entry, power folding door mirrors, LED rear combination lights, auto headlamps and wipers, rear parking sensors, a rear spoiler, and an anti-theft alarm. Plus, all EV6 models come with a Type 2 to Type 2 charger with a 5-metre cable, as well as a Type 2 to domestic 3-pin socket charger. Inside, with an Air spec EV6, you get front seats trimmed in cloth and black vegan leather upholstery, with front heating and powered lumbar adjustment for the driver, plus dual automatic air conditioning, ambient lighting, a rear view camera, an auto dimming rear view mirror, a heated steering wheel, a rear seat ski hatch, and the V2L vehicle to load system that allows you to charge auxiliary devices from the car's charging socket. Driving stuff includes a drive mode select system with eco, normal and sport settings, plus navigation-based smart cruise control and paddle shifters for the brake regeneration system. Media and infotainment across the range is covered off by a dual 12.3-inch driver display and touchscreen navigation system with voice control, wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay smartphone projection and a 6-speaker DAB audio system. Plus, via the centre screen, you also get 7 years of access to Kia Connect in-car services, a world of live data. This includes real-time traffic information, notifications of speed camera locations and accident danger zones, weather updates and points of interest info along your route. Kia Connect can also help you find parking spaces and direct you to charging stations. Kia Connect also works via a smartphone app. All EV6 models come with Kia Connect mobile application services. These allow you from your phone to check your car's location and get an overview of the vehicle's status, things like charge level or whether any of the doors have been left unlocked. Via your phone, Kia Connect will warn you if your EV6's alarm is triggered, and a valet mode allows you to track your car's location and speed if you lend it out, say to a valet parker or to your grown-up children. So all that comes with base spec, but most EV6 customers will want to move past Air specification for this car, if only to get a choice of drivetrains. The most popular trim option is likely to be mid-range GT line spec, the car in this form upgraded with a more muscular GT line exterior styling pack, plus rear privacy glass, a UV windscreen, front parking sensors and a black finish for the 19-inch alloy wheels. Drive stuff includes an extra snow terrain driving mode plus dual LED headlights with an adaptive driving beam. Inside with GT line spec, the front seats gain a relaxation design with two-tone black and white, vegan leather and suede upholstery, plus power adjustment and memory functionality on the driver's side. The cabin also gains a 3-spoke GT steering wheel, alloy pedals, deluxe door scuff plates and a wireless mobile phone charger. If you want more, then the final mainstream choice lies with the top GT Line S level of trim we're trying today. Here at the top of the range, EV6 variants feature larger 20-inch alloy wheels, automatic door handles, a sunroof with tilting and sliding functionality, and a smart remote powered tailgate. Inside with GT Line S trim, you get a Meridian premium sound system with 14 speakers, front ventilated seats, rear heated seats, and Kia's ASD active sound design system, which pipes a powertrain note through the speakers. In addition, there's an augmented reality head-up display, a 360-degree around view camera system, powered steering column adjustment, a digital key, fingerprint recognition, and the V2L vehicle-to-load system comes with an adapter. Plus, there's the latest version of Kia's clever remote smart park assist system that allows you to stand outside your EV6 and park it into tight spots using the key fob. As for options and accessories, well, there aren't too many. You can specify a detachable tow bar. This car can actually tow up to 1.6 tonnes. And you might want to add protective liners for the boot area and for the nose section's front compartment. Plus you can have a boot area mat and a bumper flap to protect the bumper from scratches when you're loading. If you want to personalise the look of your EV6, there are brushed aluminium door mirror trims, body decals and a tailgate trim line. For the cabin you can add LED footwell illumination, LED puddle lights and velour carpet mats. Bear in mind before you splash out on any of this stuff that you may well be expected to pay more for your chosen EV6 paint colour. The only standard shade is this test car's solid runway red. Kia also charges you more for a heat pump, a feature that some rivals in this segment do include as standard. This maintains battery performance in very cold conditions, costs £950 more, and is only available if you avoid entry-level trim. Enough with equipment and options, let's finish with a look at safety provision. As you'd expect, there's a decent package of camera safety kit, starting with the usual autonomous braking system. Kia's being called Forward Collision Avoidance Assist, a setup that detects pedestrians, cyclists and other vehicles in close proximity. The brand has developed this further with a forward collision avoidance assist junction turning feature that anticipates oncoming traffic you might be about to turn out in front of at junctions. There's also an LKA or lane keep assist feature which applies subtle steering lock if you drift out of lane or drift too close to the edge of the roadway, and a lane follow assist setup that keeps you a safe distance behind the vehicle ahead, combining with a highway driving assist feature to automatically adjust the car's speed to suit surrounding traffic. There's much more too. Driver attention warning constantly monitors your driving reactions for drowsiness. Multi-collision brake assist brakes the car after an impact so that it's less likely to go on and hit something else. There's rear occupant alert prompting you if someone's been left on the back seat when you power off. And an intelligent speed limit assist feature uses speed limit info from the traffic sign recognition system to maintain your speed at the posted limit. Plus, of course, all EV6s come equipped with front and side airbags, as well as curtain airbags, and you get a central bag in the dashboard. An e-call system will alert the emergency services with your GPS location if any of these airbags go off in a collision. There's also auto door unlocking in the event of an impact, as well as ABS braking and electronic stability control to help you avoid one in the first place. Plus, you get hill start assist to stop you from drifting backwards on uphill junctions, a tyre pressure warning system, and ISOFIX child seat top tethers and anchor fixings for the outer rear seats. You get more safety kit the further up the range you go. Avoid entry-level trim, and your EV6 will also come with Kia's PCA reverse parking collision avoidance assist system, which will alert you if you're about to reverse into something or indeed someone. Plus, you get the brand's useful safe exit assist system, which alerts occupants if they're about to open their doors in the face of an oncoming cyclist or vehicle. There's also an intelligent front lighting system, which automatically dips your headlights for you at night. And a clever blind spot view monitor system uses little side cameras that spring images up onto the instrument screen, alerting you if there's a vehicle in your blind spot when moving off or pulling out to overtake. At the top of the range with this GT Line S level of trim, the EV6 gets a touch of autonomous drive tech. Kia's Highway Driving Assist 2.0 setup that uses radars around the bodywork to adjust the distance to vehicles ahead and center the car in its lane. On the highway, it'll even allow your EV6 to overtake autonomously, a click of the indicator stalk moving it into an adjacent lane. All you have to do for all these functions to work is to keep your hands firmly on the wheel. As we told you in our driving section, this car's improved long-range 84 kilowatt-hour battery can take the rear-driven version of this EV6 up to 361 miles between charges, a 10% improvement over the 77.4 kilowatt-hour pre-facelift version of this model. It's a best of 339 miles for the all-wheel drive version, or 324 with the larger 20-inch wheels of this GT Line S spec. In every case, that's enough to get from London to Edinburgh on a single charge. If you're interested in the top GT version, bear in mind that drive range does take a big hit. The top GT variant can manage a range of only 279 miles. Kia claims an efficiency figure of 3.9 miles per kilowatt hour for the rear drive models, or 3.5 miles per kilowatt hour for the all-wheel drive versions. We've been getting around 3.3 miles per kilowatt hour from this all-wheel drive model during this test. Activation of the car's navigation-based smart cruise control setup also helps eke out precious battery mileage. This feature using the navigation system to anticipate upcoming curves or straights on the highway, then automatically adjusting the car's speed for more efficient driving. Bear in mind that, as with all EVs, range rises quite a lot in city driving. Kia quotes a city range figure of up to 443 miles for this all-wheel drive model and up to 475 for a rear-driven EV6. As usual, with an EV, you'll get nowhere near the WLTP-rated figures we've just quoted you unless you regularly engage the most frugal of the drive modes, Eco, which significantly restricts performance and climate functions, and make full use of Kia's smart regenerative braking system, which is operated by paddle shifters behind the steering wheel, so drivers can quickly and easily slow the car and recuperate kinetic energy to maximise driving range and efficiency. Sadly, Kia continues to charge more for a heat pump, a lot more, £950, and even worse, restricts this feature's availability to the top GT Line S and GT variants few customers will choose. This fitment, which ought to be standard, scavenges waste heat from the car's coolant system, ensuring that at -7 degrees Celsius the car can achieve 80% of the range that would be possible at 25 degrees Celsius. What about charging? Well, as before, the EV6's E-GMP platform allows for 800 volt capability. So, unlike most of its rivals, this car can power up using the new breed of super powerful, ultra-rapid DC chargers that are springing up around Europe, but remain rare in the UK. In this updated form, the EV6 now accepts a higher DC rapid charging level of up to 258 kilowatts. That's up from 239 before. If you're able to public charge in this fashion, your EV6 will be able to accept a 10 to 80% charge in just 18 minutes. To give you some perspective, most rivals need about half an hour to do the same thing. 62 miles of range can be added in only 4.5 minutes. With a lesser 50 kilowatt DC charger, a 10 to 80% charge would need 1 hour and 16 minutes. AC charging from home using a typical 7.4 kilowatt garage wall box needs 12.5 hours. It'd be 7 hours, 35 minutes if you could use a 3-phase 11 kilowatt AC charger. If you're travelling and can only find a domestic 12 amp socket, then you'll need to allow a yawning 34 hours and 40 minutes for a 10 to 100% charge. As you'd expect, the cabin central screen's EV menu can tell you where the nearest public charging station is, though it doesn't necessarily tell you what kind it is, even whether the station in question is publicly accessible. The screen's EV homepage can connect through to a useful map with a range bubble showing how far you can go on your car's current charge. And as you'd expect, there's also a screen that shows battery charge percentage and how far you can go with the climate system either on or off. In addition, there's an EV setting screen to set charger limits for either AC or DC chargers. The EV6 is also able to distribute charge to other vehicles at up to 3.6 kilowatts using its Type 2 socket as part of an incorporated vehicle-to-load V2L function. We're not quite sure why you'd ever want to do that, but it might conceivably be useful, according to Kia, to charge large appliances using the car's battery on an outdoor adventure. If you're converting to an electric vehicle from a previous combustion model, you'll obviously need to factor in the cost of an EV charger for your home and perhaps also your office. There's still complexity around the best charging hardware to choose and who's eligible for a government grant. And obviously, the costs can vary depending on the distance from your main meter to the charger and other factors. There's lots of advice out there, of course, to guide you. We consulted plugmein.com, who offer customers everything from choice of charger to installation and ongoing maintenance. They've advised us that even with increased energy prices, the cost of running an EV and charging it at home on a dedicated tariff is still only around half the cost of running your previous petrol or diesel car. What else? Well, as we filmed, the key UK tax incentives had just changed, with road tax being introduced for the first time, £10 for year one and £195 for year two, and the benefit in kind taxation rate rising from 2 to 3%. Insurance groupings range between 34E and 37E for the rear-driven version. It's 40E for this all-wheel drive model and 45A for the EV6 GT. Residual values after 3 years and 36,000 miles are rated in the 47 to 48% bracket, which is fractionally ahead of a comparable Hyundai Ioniq 5. There's the usual impressively long 7-year, 100,000 mile warranty, though these days that's beaten by rival EVs from Toyota and Peugeot. And servicing is once every 2 years or 20,000 miles. In its original form, this EV6 took the technology that had impressed us with smaller Kias and evolved it to a level appropriate for a customer looking for a faster, bigger, better quality kind of mid-sized EV. The result was the Korean brand's most accomplished car to date, and a model which today looks almost as appealing as it did at launch, thanks to this well-judged package of mid-term updates. True, it's not quite the standout contender it was back in 2021. This segment's evolved considerably since then, and you'll now find slightly faster, more efficient and more comfortable rivals that can match this Kia's quite accomplished handling repertoire. As an all-round package though, the EV6 still remains very difficult to ignore, aided by the bigger battery, sharper looks and slightly better quality cabin provided by this facelift. Even if you're about to sign for something in this class with a premium badge, we reckon the Kia is well worth a look. In terms of quality, style and technology, we think you'll be surprised at what you'll find.